Before the break, we asked, what did the Victorians use in their baking? Was it powdered snail shell, conker flour, or egg white? It was conker flour. And conkers are mildly poisonous. No wonder they had a rough time.
Somebody's going to be baking today. Yeah. And doing this.
Yes, they are.
They're always looking for new tricks, aren't they?
Do we a warning? Do we have to say don't try this at home? Yeah. Later we're talking about the Louvre heist. Some French politicians blaming the fact that the security chief was a woman brought in under so-called DEI. So Yasmin's view on that, particularly welcome. Let's talk about Prince Andrew. Should he leave Britain? 0207 862 2222. Give us your thoughts. Really serious story, this. Over the past few days, we've learnt more about his alleged relationship with Virginia Giuffre, and police are still looking into claims that he tried to dig up dirt on her, may have even organised trolls to attack her. And by the way, I read the Giuffre,
so have I.
The section of the book yesterday, all about how she was picked up by Ghislaine Maxwell at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's resort, and she describes Ghislaine as an apex predator who took her to Epstein, and from that point she was groomed and abused, and then Andrew came on the scene, she says. There's been mixed reaction as to what should happen next with Andrew, but the pressure is enormous now. Ministers have kept quiet and said they would be guided by the wishes of the royal family, but now some are calling for him to leave the Royal Lodge. The Chancellor said she wasn't across the details of his living arrangements, but she said this.
He shouldn't have been associated with a convicted paedophile, and I think the new revelations in this book, make for very sober reading, and I'm sure that everybody will reflect on that and form their own judgment.
Good. Not very coded, was it? Shadow Minister Robert Jenrick is going further and calling for Andrew to step away from public life. So that would mean a kind of exile, and he's not the only one mentioning it. Let's just have a look at what exactly that might entail. Because at the moment, Andrew is in a prison of his own making, and he's in the Royal Lodge. He surely can't stay there. He must leave it. So then we get into this question of exile. And it's not just us raising this, actually. It came from a very prominent Labour peer and barrister called Helena Kennedy, who's friends with the Queen. And Helena said he should go and live a different kind of life in a country such as Switzerland. Quoted on BBC Midnight News just in the last few hours. Swiss, of course, saying, what did we do to deserve that? Well, let's have a look at exile and the precedents of rulers moving abroad. Are there precedents for it? And there are. Of course there are. So if we go back a long old way, we'll start with Napoleon here, who started in Elba, was France, Elba, and then moved right there to South America, to St. Helena. That's Napoleon. King Charles II, when we took out our monarchs briefly, went to live in Spain for his own safety. Haile Selassie in Ethiopia had to leave because the Italians took his country over in World War II, came here to Britain, actually, so kind of exile there. Idi Amin, who was an absolute tyrant in Uganda, as Yasmin knows only too well, ended up in Saudi Arabia for the rest of his life. A couple of other ones, not always criminals. This guy fell in love, abdicated. Edward VIII goes to Paris with Mrs. Windsor. This guy, horrific tyrant, Bashar al-Assad, from Syria to Moscow, where he now is. So people do leave in circumstances good, bad and ugly. And I don't know, Yasmin, you tell me what you think, whether this is the answer for Andrew.
I know Helena. I think this is a very rubbish suggestion, actually.
She's the first one to name a country.
Yes. Well, Switzerland, so she should say no. Maybe Dubai. There are loads of dodgy, nice people in Dubai. He'd be happy there.
Well, Dubai is an option, actually, yeah.
Yeah, Dubai is the only place I can think of. But actually, I would like him questioned, like any other citizen of this country, if at least questioned. Okay, we need to know more because of what's in this book, but also what Andrew Lowney, who has spent his life, he's actually on the right, who spent his life investigating not just Andrew, but many of the royals.
We've got everyone's called Andrew. It's got Andrew. But Andrew Lowney has written a book called Entitled, which I haven't yet read.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's on my phone to read, yeah.
At least he should be questioned by the police or somebody, because how do they get away with it?
Hang on, what's the allegation in this country? Because I'm not aware that he's alleged to have done any crimes in Britain.
Well, if this was a paedophilic network...
Yes, which it was. Sex trafficking.
And he knew, because he saw him after Epstein was convicted, there are questions.
Well,
Okay.
So the allegation, though, is that she was coerced and forced into a sex act, which is a sexual assault. So that is the allegation. Yes, I know she wasn't underage, but that's still a criminal offence.
Yep.
And the point is, I think Yasmin's right. Why isn't, the idea of someone getting away with that kind of crime is disturbing to me. There should always be investigations. There should always be trials. On the other hand, we have to accept due process. We have to believe in the principle of innocent till proven guilty. We are behaving as though he's already been found guilty in court. Why hasn't there been an investigation? Why haven't people I know they're looking into his potential trying to dig up dirt on his accuser and that kind of thing. So they might get him on that. But even on what we know, I think the royal family has enough to say he needs to stand down. He went to New York to associate with Epstein after he was a convicted paedophile.
Absolutely. Stayed at his house.
Someone who represents the state can't do that and continue in that role.
And then,
also,
by the way, lied
know,
about it as well,
and,
because he said he broke contact and he
listen,
didn't.
we still haven't been told. This is the problem with the royal family. Where that 12 million settlement came from, we don't know who paid it.
You would view that as public money, would you?
Well, even if it wasn't, surely, why is it being kept secret?
Paid by the Queen, I understand.
Yep, and if it was, how does he then say, I have no recollection of meeting her?
Yeah, well,
How do you put those
of course,
two together?
but,
Well, I mean,
we know that he
that's-
lied. We know he lied because it now has come out that he told Mateless that he'd broken contact in December, and the following February he was emailing Epstein saying we're in this together, which is incredible. But on the criminal thing, surely Ghislaine is in jail.
Yeah.
Epstein is dead. Weinstein is in jail. So that the wheels have ground, but not in this country. Let's just talk to Emily Andrews, Royal Editor for Women and Home. We're scooting over the Royal Lodge, Emily, because we've sort of taken the view that he's definitely going to leave it, because I just can't see how he can stay there.
No, I agree, Jeremy. And certainly this is the first time in kind of 15 years of royal reporting that I've seen MPs in Parliament get involved in a royal story. And we've seen, both sides, Labour and Tory, Jenrick and Labour MPs come out and say he should leave Royal Lodge. It's an outrage. It's a disgrace. So I agree with you. I don't see how it's viable that he can stay there. Legally, under contract law, he has got a watertight contract because under huge pressure, the Crown Estate gave an unredacted copy of the tenancy agreement to the Times. And that revealed brilliantly that after paying 8.5 million up front, he then, to renovate Royal Lodge after the late Queen Mother died, he then hasn't paid any rent for 22 years, apart from, if required, a peppercorn, an actual peppercorn, which is the very old-fashioned way of paying your rent. So I think we can now, because there were so many questions as to how he could afford to live there, we now know. So it's quite difficult. But I think there is a way, obviously, that the British government could seize back Royal Lodge. I mean, it is owned by the Crown Estate. But I just wanted to pick up Andrew's point on due process and investigation. I think it's worth mentioning that about 4 or 5 years ago, the US Department of Justice, who was investigating Jeffrey Epstein and the whole sex trafficking ring in the US, they subpoenaed Andrew. They put a formal request in to the UK government and the royal family that Andrew should be questioned by the US Justice Department. Did anything happen, Jeremy? Absolutely not.
Yeah, so he's managed to stay out of the USA. I guess he won't ever travel there again, Emily, unless he's forced to.
No, I don't think he can, because this formal document was requested, obviously, for him to be talked to, and he never did. Now, I'm sure he would probably say, Buckingham Palace advised him not to. But I mean, can you imagine? I mean, we all saw the Newsnight interview with Emily Mateless, what a car crash that was. Put Andrew in front of ferocious US lawyers, it would be devastating, I think, for the royal family, for him. But as Yasmin said, maybe we could get some answers. It was interesting hearing.
Sorry to interrupt. I was interested hearing Helena Kennedy, who is very respected, saying Switzerland. This may be the answer to the whole thing, because he would actually disappear, and it might be easier for him. But where would he go, Emily?
I think what's more likely is one of the Middle Eastern monarchies. Andrew's had very close ties, and Charles has had close ties with the royal families of Bahrain, of the Emirates, for instance, Abu Dhabi or Dubai. And I think that is much more likely for Andrew. And of course, it would keep him in the style of which he is now accustomed.
Emily Andrews of Woman and Home, thank you so much for joining us. Royal expert there. Peter in Wolverhampton, what are you thinking? Is it fair to talk about his exile now?
Yes, I think so. But Andy is legitimately known as a war hero, and does count in his favour. So I think he should be exiled to the Falklands.
Well, that's not as crazy as it sounds, because I think he would genuinely he wouldn't be at risk there. I think he would be regarded as being welcome, probably. Yasmin, what do you think? The Falklands.
Why would you impose this guy? What he was back then is not what he has become. And I think that would be an insult to the people of those islands, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
And anyway, we don't have an empire. We can't just transport our problems abroad. We deal with them here.
I mean, we are talking about voluntary exile, not actual exile without trial. That would be a bit dodgy.
Yeah, no, he's not having his passport taken
Yeah.
away, but someone sits down and says, look, it would be better for you to start again somewhere else. I think it would be impossible in the UK because he'd have the press following him every single day.
I think it'll be Dubai.
Yeah, maybe, because those are basically pretty closed states. You can't just wander around with a camera taking pictures of him. Thank you, Peter. More calls after the break. Should Prince Andrew be kicked out of Britain? Or maybe it isn't voluntary. 0207 862 2222. We'll see you shortly. Before the break, we asked how many babies were named Andrew in Scotland last year. We gave you 49, 490 or 1,049. The answer is 49. And yeah, I'm just wondering if the name Andrew, your name, will go out of fashion.
That suggests it's becoming unpopular even in Scotland, where, of course, the patron saint of Scotland is.
Of course.
St Andrews, yeah.
So, I mean, that's astonishing. That's an astonishing number.
I wonder how many were named Andrew in York. One, I should think. If that, when they didn't have a television.
You know, they're so obsequious, people in this country. There were 57, I think, charities had Andrew as their patron.
Yeah, but
explain that,
yeah, but
including the NSPCC.
But look how fast they dropped him.
Yeah, but why did you choose him? What had he ever done?
Oh, that's all about not having a queen and a king.
No, what has Andrew, since the Falklands, which I admit he did heroically as a soldier, what has Andrew ever done except spend money?
He's been, OK, I'm going to answer that question. He's been Britain's trade envoy.
Oh, yes.
And until we discovered he was involved with a paedophile, he was responsible for jollying us up a bit.
Just read the record on his time as a trade envoy.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
I'm doing my best here.
Yeah.
OK, I know.
Corruption doesn't quite cover it.
We need to know how much money he made for himself while he was this country's trade envoy.
Yeah.
Sorry to dampen it down. But it's actually quite an important question,
and the use of his daughters sometimes for some of this, you know? Look, why would you as a charity choose him?
Well, they haven't. I mean, they dropped...
They always
when it
choose
turns...
figureheads, don't they?
Yeah, they dropped Fergie so fast. Like, bang, that was it.
That's like saying... The dropping isn't the issue.
You're saying why have a royal in the first? Well, then
why do you have this royal? I mean, I wouldn't have any royal, but why would you have this man?
Well, OK, I know. You can't choose
Princess
your
Anne,
royals.
I can understand.
I thought the trouble started when, and this is not a frivolous point, back in the 80s, he was being photographed by a load of press people and he had a paint gun. Do you remember this?
I don't.
And he thought it was funny to point the paint gun at all the press photographers and spray it on them, and he destroyed all their cameras. And they all had to go and get their cameras replaced. And at the time we didn't have the word entitled, but people said, that's not good. Maria in London, if he gets thrown out of the country, where should he go to?
No, he shouldn't get thrown out of the country. This is his country. And I don't support him in any way, shape or form. But this is his country and he should be able to go and live as a recluse anywhere he likes hang on,
the point about it, Maria, is if he went abroad, he wouldn't have to be a recluse. If he loses the Royal Lodge, he's going to have to hide away a bit here.
But the whole nature of why we want him to leave the country, so to speak, why would you want to put that on somebody else's country? As Yasmin said, why should somebody else take, the abuse that he's getting now from his own people, his own country? And now you want him to go to some other country and what? No, I don't think that's fair.
Right.
As Yasmin said, this is our problem and we deal with it. It's not the first time that the royals have had people, usually with mental health, who they hide them away and you only hear about it when they died. Right? And I remember that case a few years back. So he can do the same. Just let him go, leave him alone. just like with Harry, if it's not being reported and moaned about all the time, nobody don't care.
But Maria,
It's only when
he's
it's brought
not
up and
he's
brought
not
up.
that guy. Look at the way he behaved at the Duchess of Kent's funeral, chortling away at the front. Look at him on his
Absolutely.
horse all the time.
But he was trying to make it seem like obviously he was still in with the family, and you can see from especially William's reaction, and even that point. Every time I see the point with Charles when he comes over near Charles, and Charles kind of thinks over it, it's like Charles saying to go over there. It's like Charles saying move away. So you know he's going to try, because at the end of the day, again, Charles is always going to be his brother. Don't care where he is, on the moon, he's dead, whatever. He's always going to be his brother.
I know.
And his mum, the Queen, did not go this far for whatever reason. So now I don't know where it goes from here, but I don't support him in any way. But it's our problem, and he should stay here
That's
and have to
interesting.
live with.
Maria, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, he did actually at the Queen's funeral. It was very significant. They said you can't wear your military uniform, any of your sort of paraphernalia. I think he may have had some medals on, but he had a normal lounge suit, and everyone else was dressed military.
These are just fripperies.
Oh,
these
no, they're
these
not.
are just fripperies. One has to remember he was the Queen's favourite son. She spoilt him. She stuck a lot of medals on him.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to also remember that.
Okay. Janet in Kent. Hello, Janet.
Hello.
What do you think, Janet? Is there another country he could go to for his own sake as well as ours?
I've got a great place for him to go to. He can go to Jeffrey Epstein's island and stay there. Nobody's using it, so he can go and live there for the rest of his life if he likes it so much.
Yeah, I don't know where. Well, it's interesting. I don't know what's happened. Obviously, his estate has been wound up. It's probably been sold, but it's got an appalling reputation. Yeah, he could go there. Thank you. John in West Lothian, hi.
Hello.
I noticed that I think it's the Scottish Daily Record saying today there's a castle called Castle May in Scotland that you could put him in. There we are. Faces exile to Scots
not.
Highland town.
Definitely not.
Why not? Are you near there?
No, not really, no. But no, I don't think you can afford to let him leave Britain.
Okay, why not?
How much does he know about the royal family's dirty laundry, about politics? Do you really want him going to another country where anybody could get a hold of him? Get him to talk?
Well, I hadn't thought of that, Andrew. He might be, kidnapped or murdered abroad.
Well, I mean, a lot of it, I mean, it's such a grave topic, but I do come back to this point, like there hasn't been a trial, and I think we are behaving as though there has been, and it's very important, really important actually, that we do hold on to that due process.
Why though? Because we know so much already. He has paid £12 million to a woman he says he didn't meet.
Yeah, and
he has been friends, you've said all this yourself, been friends with a convicted paedophile.
This is why I think, yes, exactly, which is why I think him going to the various royal family events is unsustainable.
Yeah.
Because for a start, it becomes all about him. I think that all of that shouldn't happen. But we're talking now about exile, and we're talking now about something beyond that. So shouldn't we be thinking just in terms of, well, let's have that trial? Look, we should say, shouldn't we, that the payment of 12 million is not an admission of guilt. That's very important to emphasise.
It kind of is.
It's sort of is.
Except
would you?
Well, there's lots of reasons. Sometimes celebrities do that because they don't want to be questioned where they'll have to admit to other bad behaviour. That might very well might be what this is. I don't think I just believe in that principle of due process. I don't think you can take it or leave it. But it either exists or it doesn't.
But it doesn't
That's
work
the
the same
problem
way
with
for the royals.
Sorry, the royals are never charged with anything. The royals are above the law.
They shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be, but they are.
Do you remember that case of the Paul Burrell, the royal butler, who was accused of stealing stuff from Diana, basically, or after she died? It was untrue. But it got to a point where it was going to be the Queen, the Crown versus Burrell was going to be the case. And Burrell said, well, I need the Queen as a witness on my behalf. And at that point, the entire case,
well, this is what's
it can't
so
logically...
Well, the monarch has immunity, right? But I don't think any of the other members of the royal family have.
No, sure,
kind of
but
legal
the
immunity.
Crown versus, Prince Andrew doesn't seem to work.
Why should the monarch have immunity? How far would you take that?
I agree. I don't think anyone should have immunity, but I think there should be a trial. Why isn't there a trial?
There's a trial going on now in people's minds.
But that's not sufficient.
Yeah.
Because if we did that, if we just say, once there's an accusation, then we take it as read, then Alan Dershowitz, who was falsely accused by the same individual, would be imprisoned for nothing. And that was demonstrably false.
But similarly, Savile never went through a trial, but we know he's guilty. Richard in Edinburgh, hello.
Hi.
What do you think?
This is actually one of the most entertaining shows for a while.
In a strong field. Yeah.
Yasmin is always brilliant. I don't agree with anything she ever has to say, but you've got a new guy on who I think is absolutely superb.
Good.
But anyway,
Great. Great. What would you like to say about Andrew being thrown out?
Yes. Okay. So I would either send him into Rwanda, or I would draw up a large guillotine in front of the Buckingham Palace and say we can always learn from the French.
Well,
I'm not a fan. I'm not a royalist. Okay.
No, I sort of suspected that. I kind of deduced that.
I am joking.
But Rwanda, okay, leave aside the sort of idea of executing him. Rwanda, there's a sort of cleverness to that, isn't there? Because obviously we did set up some council housing there.
It's not in our It's not in our jurisdiction.
No, but you see, they've been through enough.
We don't own Rwanda.
They have been through enough. Thank you, Richard. Thanks for your praise. Thanks for all your calls. Later, we want to know which is better, the city or the countryside. After the break, are workplace diversity schemes a good idea? Because some politicians in France say it's a so-called DEI scheme that led to the theft of their crown jewels. We'd love your thoughts on that. 0207 862 2222.